is Doug Hutchison. I'm an actor, producer, director, teacher, writer in Hollywood, California. I'm privileged to be here on the Movie Raid with our host, Mike.
It's time for the Movie Raid, and tonight's victim is actor, teacher, writer, Doug Hutchison, that played in many films as well as television, such as Punisher, Warzone, Green Mile, X-Files, and many others. Hello.
Hey, Mike. How you doing?
Fantastic. So what's going on?
What's going on? Life, man, in all of its glory. Been a blessed adventure thus far, colorful one. I'm actually speaking to you from Detroit, Michigan, where I grew up before moving to New York and then eventually Hollywood, California, where I've been for the past 25 plus years. So I've returned to Detroit for a plethora of reasons, but I'm happy to be back. I love Detroit. A lot of really exciting gifts are coming out of my return here.
Well, so you also teach acting. Do you teach acting there, or are you just there to visit, or anything else acting related?
Well, yeah. I mean, I came out here for, to be honest, for personal and professional reasons. I don't know if you've been to Hollywood, but if anybody has out there, you know what I'm about to say. It's at times you need to recharge your batteries. I desperately needed to get out of Hollywood just for a while to get centered again in mind, spirit, and body, which I have. Jumped into my Jeep Wrangler last September 1st with my little Italian Greyhound, Dorothy, and we threw some belongings in the back and we cross-countryed it from Hollywood to Detroit. On a personal note, my dad, he recently lost his second wife, not my mom, the woman he married after my parents divorced. He lost her to a heart condition. He's been going through a grieving process, and I kind of felt like I wanted to be with him and support him. And it's been a reciprocal kind of giving or gift because I needed to get out of Hollywood for a while, and I believe my dad needed some consolation through his grieving process, and so we've both been able to be there for each other. And the sidebar gift to it is that, you know, my dad and I have always been somewhat estranged over the decades, not in a bad way, but just not very close. And now at this point in time, it's divine timing that we have come together, are here for each other, and we're starting to get to know one another like we never had before. The more I get to know the old man, the more I'm in awe and respect him so much. And I think the same thing is happening on his end. He's starting to finally get his crazy, artistic-minded, creative psycho son. So that's been a really beautiful gift. On the professional side, I mean, I love to teach. So I conceived a concept called the art of stillness. And basically, it started out as an acting program for students. In a nutshell, the concept is that you start from the basis of stillness in your acting. Stillness, if you can think of it as like the bedrock of acting. You become still in your mind, body, and spirit. And then you start building upon that stillness level by level by level in order to create the character, bring intention to scene work, carry it into auditions, and into your art. And so I've kind of opened the horizons now and realized that the art of stillness isn't just about acting. It's about art in almost every form. Dance, songwriting, writing screenplays, directing. And then it traverses into life, because the more still we are in life, the more we can apply that to our given art in manifesting our dream, and vice versa. The more still we are in art reflects how we are in life. So I've been blessed to have the opportunity to teach this here in Detroit. My ultimate goal is to start the Art of Stillness Institute. I'm going to manifest that dream, and I think Michigan is potentially fertile ground for that. I haven't stopped acting. I did the final episode of the season finale of CSI not too long ago. I was the guest star for that episode. And then all last year, 2017, I was shuttling back and forth from Hollywood to Toronto, where I'm actually playing a character in a game, a video game. I've never done that before. It's a wild experience, but it's coming out soon. It's called Far Cry 5 by a company called Ubisoft, who's also created like Call of Duty and all these other big-time games. I'm not a gamer, so I don't really know that world very much, but it was really fascinating to play a character in the game. And then lastly, not lastly, but I was privileged to be invited to this X-Files convention in Chicago a couple weeks ago. It really blows me away because when I did the X-Files, we're talking like 1992. I mean, that's how far back we're going. But it was fascinating. There was a huge turnout. I'd say there were over 2,000 fans there from all over the world. I mean, I met so many people from Amsterdam, Germany, Estonia, London. People drove up from San Antonio, Texas, 12 hours just to go to this fan fest. It was really a privilege to meet these folks. They're very, very loyal to this show. So that was fun. And then finally, I write screenplays. I've written over 24, I think, a couple dozen. But I just finished a screenplay called My Father's House, which was inspired by my return to Detroit and my new connection with my father. So I'm hoping to take that to the next level. And then lastly, and I'll shut up a while so you can talk, Mike, I'm working on a memoir, an autobiography, because I don't know, I've just had such a colorful, wild roller coaster ride in Hollywood and in my pursuit of manifesting my dreams to become an actor, and I got a lot of stories to tell. I think hopefully entertaining, some of them scandalous. It's a very frank book. It will be a frank book about my experiences rubbing elbows with the likes of, Tom Hanks and Jamie Foxx and Samuel L. Jackson and Sean Penn and Val Kilmer, all these wild people I've met along my journey and my experiences in movies and whatnot. So hopefully I should be finished by June, and then we're going to get it published, and hopefully it'll be an entertaining read. So that's what I've been up to. What about you?
Well, it's definitely not as colorful. I mean, it's like probably maybe like one page. Well, that's great that you're doing all this really cool stuff. Back to when you were talking about this, the stillness of the acting. That's also really great that you're taking the time to rejuvenate, to take the time, and I think every actor should take the time and the moment to just stop for a moment and kind of like rethink. And because the longer you go as an actor, I mean, you are going to burn out and you're going to lose that touch of the characterization that you're playing as, because the longer you go, you're just gonna frap out, and people are not gonna be interested, on screen, as well as the directors or whoever else that you're presenting the character to.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, Hollywood, it's an interesting place. It's kind of a double-sided mirror. I mean, on one side, you're looking at the beauty of it is there are no rules in Hollywood. The only rule is there are no rules, and so you can manifest your dream there. That's the gorgeous part of Hollywood. The flip side of that is that it is probably one of the most challenging places on earth to try to keep your sense of character, moral principle, because quite frankly, you are surrounded by a den of wolves and a pit of vipers, and you don't always know who to trust. There's a lot of backstabbing in Hollywood, as you know. And so, yes, you can become disenchanted there, and it's important to get out for a while. And even if it's temporary, But what I've discovered is that I don't need to live in Hollywood to work through Hollywood. I mean, I still have a manager and an agent there they have my best interests in mind, and we're working toward getting some really, we're on the verge of getting some really cool things happening. So I just don't need to be there, especially now. I mean, with the internet, and you can put yourself on self-tape if you need to audition for something, or if producers are interested in you, and then it's just a plane ride away if you need to actually go there in person to get into the room and meet people and things like that. So, there's this old adage, this old coinage. It says, they're famous for saying, Hollywood has the potential to change you, and not necessarily in a positive way. I don't agree with that. I believe that Hollywood exposes you. It doesn't change you. It exposes you. And so if you're a good person and you have a good character and your intentions are pure, there's no money, there's no fame, there's no celebrity in the world that's going to change that core inside of you. If you're greedy, if you are self-centered, if you are egotistical, if you don't have the moral fiber that it requires to be a good person, then you go to Hollywood and it will expose you. And, it's one or the other. And we're starting to see that now, unfortunately, with this whole Harvey Weinstein list. It seems to be never ending now. It's like this list of just, unfortunate abuses of power. And so, yeah, I needed to get out. I needed to get out for a while. I don't know if I'll go back. Maybe. I'm an open book right now. I'm feeling really good. I dropped 30 pounds. Believe it or not, I blew up, and I wasn't treating myself right. I wasn't eating well. I was, drinking too much. And these are the trappings that Hollywood can offer if you're not careful. Therefore, here I am in Detroit. Got back to church. I go to church with my dad. I feel like I'm in a really good place right now, and I'm grateful for it.
Yeah, that's really awesome too. And there are actors out there that express their art, and then there are actors out there that trying to make a name for themselves and that are intentionally use themselves as a byproduct. Do you think the responsibility has become negligent due to profit?
It's very difficult right now. The movie business in Hollywood right now is really on a razor's edge, because it seems like the only thing we're able to watch anymore in movie theaters is either comic book movies, superhero movies, horror. Horror is always be around. I mean, year round, everybody loves horror, but it's either like independent horror movies or big multi-million-dollar superhero movies. It seems like our choices now in the theater, and I think it's eating itself up. It's like it's hard. It's difficult to get a movie made these days, unless you are like a Harvey Weinstein. However, the flip side of that is that all of this material is now coming out in these series from Netflix and Hulu and all of these cable channels, and the acting, the script writing, the directing is impeccable. I mean, I'm addicted to several of these shows. I was sorely disappointed when House of Cards appears like it's going to fall because of Kevin Spacey being on the Harvey Weinstein list. I love that show. There's just so much material out there now, and so many opportunities for actors. That's one of my goals, is with my manager and agent. I am going to nail one of these impeccable series. I don't know, going to be on Netflix or Hulu or on a major network. I don't know, but to nail a series regular, a recurring role that you can just shine in and potentially get nominated for awards. And I mean, the sky's the limit as far as that aspect of Hollywood breaking out.
It seems like the television does that.
It's just, it really, ask anyone. I mean, even the best of the best, it's hard to get a movie made anymore, unless, like I said, it's superhero or horror.
when it comes to with these studios with over budgeting and sometimes they bomb on their own films, do you think these companies are actually kind of running or even holding back actors themselves from pursuing an actual decent resume?
No, I don't. You know what? You can be in the crappiest movie ever made and come out smelling like a rose if you are acting truthfully and, lending yourself. Like, of course, there are a lot of factors, that are involved, as we know. There's the editing, the lighting, the makeup, the character, the script, the direction, all of that stuff adds its elements. But honestly, if you're a good actor, you are always a good actor. You will never be a bad actor because nobody sets out to do that. Nobody goes, all right, I'm going to be crappy in this movie. I really do believe if you have a harness on your craft, and as long as you're constantly striving to act truthfully and from the foundation of stillness, you can be in the worst piece of crap and people are still going to remember you as the shining, glowing moment in that movie or whatever project it is. So no, I don't think it's hurting careers necessarily. And quite frankly, if you think about it, even the movies we love to criticize because they're not very good, nobody ever sets out to make a bad movie. Think about that. Like, if you got the finances, whatever it is, low budget, medium budget, high budget, and you've attracted a cast of actors who you really love and believe in, and if you have a script that you're impassioned by, you're going to set out to try to make the best movie you can, and you may come up with a turd. But that wasn't your intention. I remember one of my first movies I ever did, actually it was my first movie, back in, I'm dating myself now, but 1987, I was in a movie called Fresh Horses with Molly Ringwald, Andrew McCarthy. It's Ben Stiller's first movie, Viggo Mortensen. It was directed by David Onspa, who had just come off of directing Hoosiers. Our DP was Fred Murphy. He won Academy Awards. It had a lot going for it. Well, the movie unfortunately fell short. And I remember the LA Times called it fresh horse shit.
Oh, wow.
So it was a big disappointment. But you know what? None of us set out to make a bad movie. We just, the pieces, for whatever reasons, didn't come together, despite the talent attached to that particular movie.
Stepping into characters, how do you keep the concentration when having to break character, like in between takes or having to take a break? How do you keep having to concentrate right back into the character that you jumped out of?
That's a really good question. It really, really, really depends on the role. Depends on the character. I've approached every character I've ever played in a different way. I've never approached it in the same fashion. To give you an example, sometimes I did the old method thing where I stayed in character the entire time. I did that for a movie I did with Joel Schumacher called it A Time to Kill. I played this really somewhat disgusting, white trash, drunken, southern, trashy guy who ends up with his partner tragically raping a 7-year-old little black girl, and I had to smoke in it. I'm not a smoker. I found these faux cigarettes that looked like Marlboros, which I was grateful for, but my hair was long. I didn't take a shower. I was just greasy, dirty, and so I needed to feel like I had to stay in that character. Even when I went back to my hotel at night, to wake up in the morning with him again. In fact, Sandra, this is pretty funny, but I had the entire cast at the end of after we wrapped, I had the entire cast sign my script, and Sandra Bullock, who was also starring in the movie, she wrote, "Take a shower and then we'll talk." But I realized that if I could actually embody this character and then convince people from that region, because we shot in Mississippi, a little town called Canton, Mississippi, I decided if I could convince the locals that I was actually from Canton and I was part of this family, then I would succeed in delivering the performance that I had hoped to deliver. When I played Percy in The Green Mile, it was a different approach. I did a lot of homework. I kept a journal, a Percy journal. Of course, I studied with a dialect coach. I stayed fairly in character on the set, but it was a different vibe. You could go in and out. I was learning that from Tom Hanks. You didn't have to, stay ensconced in that character constantly. So when I went home, I didn't take Percy home with me, but for some reason, Percy was easy for me to slip into once I did my homework. When I did Salton Sea with Val Kilmer, I was playing a DEA, a drug enforcement agent, and so I hung out with Riverside DEAs. They took me on runs with them. It was fascinating. I mean, it was like cops. I was like following them while they were busting into houses and arresting crack addicts and gunfire. I mean, it was crazy. But I felt like I needed to plunge into that kind of world because it was so alienated. It was so alien. And then finally, like when I played that character in Bait with Jamie Foxx, I was a psychotic character, but he was very introverted, so I decided I would isolate myself. And so I didn't socialize a lot on that set. I would go home to my hotel and be by myself because I felt like this guy was a lone wolf. That isolation helped me once the cameras were rolling. It illustrate that lone wolf kind of quality. So I guess my point is that every single role demands something different from an actor. And then, to be honest, there have been some roles, like on television or whatever, I just skated through. I didn't do the necessary preparation. I felt like I could just pull it off, not do much, kind of be lazy and not do much work or preparation. So it really does depend on the role, the character, the project. I've always found that every character that I've played in a movie or on stage, whatever, TV show, I always carry a residual aspect of that character with me just for a while until finally it fades. Like with Percy and The Green Mile, since I worked really hard, like the other cast members as well, to acclimate this accent, because it wasn't just a Southern accent. I mean, everybody thinks, oh, Southern accent's a Southern accent. No, it's regional. So we were learning a Louisianan accent in that region of Louisiana, and not only that, but because the movie was set back in the 1940s, the language was different even back then to contemporary Louisianan accents. So, it was a very challenging accent to learn. We had a great coach, Jessica Drake, who was on set constantly, and every time we fell away from that accent in some fashion, she had headphones on, and she'd come up and she'd adjust you and tell you, no, you're not saying that right. You have to say it this way. So the reason I'm bringing it up is because after we wrapped, I had that accent for weeks. Like it wouldn't go away, and until it did, finally, it finally, faded. But that seems to happen a lot with the characters that I play. Like when I played Ifty and I Am Sam with Sean Penn, I was playing such a specific character that it was difficult afterwards to finally he let me go. And, you know, I could move on to the next.
Yeah, where do you think the real fulfillment in the art of acting is really gained at? Like, which areas do you think is really the best part of it all? I mean, today you see actors you watch on the screen. I mean, it seems so fast paced that they're really kind of. It almost seems like they're rushing the role just so they can get past it. I mean, it is a job. Some aspects you really can't treat it just as a job, but if you do, you're not you're going to be literally leaving out all the emotions, the moments, and the aspects of the character of your acting to the audience that's on the screen, and it's just going to look fake, and it's not gonna dwell out for you if you just treat it as a job. The fulfillment in the art of this is to reach out and actually touch the audience, regardless if it's a big role or small role or just an extra, you know?
Oh, I couldn't agree more. That's why I was blessed by this idea, this concept that came to me, this art of stillness. It didn't come overnight. It didn't just happen. This has been developing in me and in my acting and in my art for years. And finally, it dawned on me that by becoming still, you are slowing down and you are telling the truth from a well of an egoless ocean of stillness. And this is what I attempt to impart to my students when I teach. We need to become still in order to become truthful, in order to affect not only the person that we're acting with or the moment in the movie or theater or whatever it is, but that's when our audience becomes engaged. Stillness is like a light that moths are attracted to. And when you see somebody becoming still in a performance, you are automatically, as an audience member, attracted to that. And you're moved to move toward it, and you believe it because it's the truth. It's beautiful when you see it in action. I use several examples in my Art of Stillness workshops and classes in film to show my students. One of them is Anthony Hopkins in Silence of the Lambs. It's an absolutely still and believable performance. Now, here's an actor who's playing a serial killer who eats his victim. Now, in a lesser actor's hands, that could be completely over the top. But what do we see with Anthony Hopkins? We see him soft-spoken. We see him with his hands clasped behind his back. We see him being completely still as he relates to the Jodie Foster character. And that's what's so compelling about his performance in that movie. And there are just tons of examples of, you saw The Green Mile, right?
Certainly have.
Okay. Do you remember the moment after the John Coffey character heals the warden's wife, Melissa?
Yes.
From her disease? That scene, that sequence, after she's healed, and she goes up to him, and she looks in his eyes, and she says, "I dreamed of you." And she takes off her St. Christopher amulet, her necklace, and she puts it around his neck. She said, "I dreamed of you. We were in the dark, and I saw you." I'm paraphrasing. I can't remember the exact lines, but it's this moment in the movie that if it doesn't touch you, you're dead. Because what those two actors are doing in that sequence is they're connecting through stillness and through truth. And Patricia Clarkson, who plays the warden's wife, and the late Michael Clark Duncan, who plays John Coffey, in that moment, in that movie, there is some magic happening. And it pulls us in. It takes our hearts away. That is impeccable acting. And you're right. When an actor is just going through the paces, rushing through it, just job, it's got to get, whatever, get through this, we feel it as an audience, and we feel the intention is not true, and we feel it.
No, you have to. The audience has to be driven into the story. I mean, it's no different than with video games, man. I mean, the story has got to be so compelling to where it sucks you in there, regardless of what genre it is. When it comes to the films, rather, even if it's a TV show or something, it's like example. If your character is in an argument with another character, every little movement, every aspect, every emotion on the face, the gestures, it has to match up with the moment. Because if you don't, if you're just yelling and just waving your hands around, it's not believable, man.
That's right. And see, that's you just hit the nail on the head, because that is exactly what we're exploring with the stillness stuff in class. And it's so beautiful to see it in action, and it's also so inspiring. I get so inspired when I actually see these students, aspiring actors, some of them more advanced than others. It doesn't matter. When they embrace the stillness, it's something sacred. It's the best way I can put it. And out of that comes the emotion, you see, because if we rush to the emotion too quickly, we're doing what you were just describing. We're rushing to it. We don't believe it. It's not real. You can see the actor acting angry. Well, if you start with stillness and you build slowly upon that foundation, then if you're going to be playing a scene where you need to grieve because you just lost someone, your tears are not going to be contrived. They're going to be real. They're going to come out of a truthfulness that came out of you allowing yourself to be still. And so I'm constantly encouraging actors, take your time. Don't be in a rush. Let it build to an organic emotion, and then you're on fire. Then you are giving us your stillness, your art, your truth, and we're moved. Isn't that why we go to movies? To be moved in some fashion? Whether it's a horror movie, to be frightened, whether it's a heartfelt drama, to be moved. I just watched this movie a couple weeks ago. I don't know if you've seen it, called A Monster Call movie.
I don't recall that, no.
It was made in 2016. I highly recommend it. It's a movie about grief, probably on the top of my list right now of movies that just grabbed my heart, tore it into pieces, and then built it up again. It's just a lovely movie. And talk about stillness, talk about truth. You will see the most impeccable act in this film. A Monster Calls. I highly recommend it to you and your audience who's listening. Get this movie. Watch it. You'll be floored.
Well, I certainly will. Well, go ahead and plug in anything that you wish to promote, any new projects or that you are currently doing, and please, your new studio, teaching, as well as like any dates and so forth.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have much more to add than what I mentioned at the beginning. I think they're showing previews of the video game now, Far Cry 5 on YouTube, so I think it's premiering soon, like right around the corner. Like I said, I'm hoping to finish my book my manager gave me a June 1st deadline, so I'm diligently trying to pound that out to get it done by then. And I just, I have maybe 2 or 3 of my screenplays that are in the process of, eventually and hopefully produced. I finally have some investors on, who like them and who seem to be on board. And then, other than that, like I said, I'm just really into this art of stillness thing. And so my hope is that, by, I don't know, I don't want to put a time limit on it because I really don't know, but I will be creating this Art of Stillness Institute. I would love to be the artistic director. I would love to teach other teachers to teach this method and see it expand, because I've seen it work miracles and touch other people.
That is actor, teacher Doug Hutchison.